Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So today's video is going to be a Yass. That was horrible.
A Yass or pause.
Okay, hi. So today's video is going to be a Yass or pause. We are going to go through new makeup, talk about it. Do we want it? Do we not want it? And yeah, you guys know the drill.
It's Yass or pause time.
So today's video, I have a lot of new things that I actually have a lot of opinions on. I mean, I guess I have opinions on a lot of things, but the first thing I want to talk about is the new launch from KKW called the Opalescent collection. And this is Kim Kardashian's birthday collection. It comes with some lip products, but the main thing I want to talk about is the palette. I will say, I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this palette. I'm not gonna buy it because I don't need purples right now. I have kind of a plethora of purple colors in my collection. I feel like with purple, you only really need a few good ones and then you're like set. So I don't really need this in the sense that I don't need a lot of purples, but I actually commend Kim for making a palette that has some color to it. For the most part, all we've really seen from KKW Beauty has been nudes and neutral palettes. It's definitely kind of nice to see something that has a little bit more color, a little bit more flavor to it. Specifically, there's like a lilac shade in here. There's a matte lilac and a shimmer lilac that just look really beautiful. And I also like that she included the use of those browns and mustard tones because I actually think you could utilize those in a really cool way to make some really fun and unique makeup looks. I don't often see more mustardy shades in pink and purple palettes, so I think adding that in and kind of adding something a little bit different is very cool. I had the KKW Mario palette, the very first one they did, and I have to say, based on the formula, the mattes performed okay, but the shimmers were definitely very dry. So I don't know if they've changed their formula since then, but I will say the formula has never incredibly impressed me, but props to the brand for doing something different, trying something different. I appreciate that we're not just getting the same palette over and over and over and over again like we kind of have been since the brand started. So I appreciate that she did something different. I always think it's very funny how brand owners do like birthday collections. It's kind of iconic actually. How awesome would it be that so many people care about your birthday that you could make millions of dollars selling things about your birthday? Like, all I get for my birthday these days is a hug. It's like, whatever, do your thing, make money off of it. Kylie Jenner does the same thing with Kylie Cosmetics. I know a few other brands that do that. Simply Nailogical just put out like a nail polish for her birthday. Very interesting. It's a very interesting marketing strategy. This is the Disney X Estée Lauder collection. And it seems like these are powder compacts, but like very luxurious compacts. Here's my thing about these. I am not going to shame anybody for being a die-hard Disney fan to the point that they want to spend a couple of $100s on one of these compacts. I'm not here to shame you. If you are, Ariel is like your favorite thing on the planet and you want to go spend that money on this compact because it's beautiful, go for it. But I will say, not to shame you, I do these, if this was like a Taylor Swift thing, like, okay, take my money. Like, I get it. I get the being a super mega fan of something and wanting beautiful things of that. Like, I totally understand it. But I would just say, before you do that, just remind yourself that this is in fact still a very gimmicky marketing technique. I appreciate the fact that all of these compacts are refillable. So you could essentially just have this beautiful compact and keep buying the powder over and over again forever. So at least you're buying something that's not going to expire. Because I feel like my thing with makeup is everything expires, but at least with this one, you could replace it if the powder expired or if you used it up all the way. So if you want to buy it as like a luxury compact, I at least can appreciate that. The reason that they're doing this and the reason that they are charging these crazy prices for these products, because it ranges from, it seems like $175 up to $300. They're perfume compacts and powder compacts. Each one has a different price. Priced these so high because they knew that people love Disney so much that they would do this. Like, maybe before you buy this, just check on Etsy and see if you can find a compact similar to this that is probably going to be 10 times cheaper because it's not sold directly from Disney. I understand that these are going to be considered collector's pieces and I get all of that, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are just buying it because it's like a thing to buy and it's this really cool exclusive thing. Just really consider it. See if there's other things first that are similar and will give you the similar vibe, because I guarantee I could go on Etsy and find some bedazzled compacts that are similar to this. And really think about, are you going to actually be using this every day, or are you going to be a little bit scared to use it because it was so expensive and so nice for the packaging? Like, if I bought something like this, I would want to bring it with me everywhere to like whip out and check my powder, but also it's fragile. Like, they have gemstones in it. It seems like it's something that could break relatively easily. So just think about things like that. I'm not going to shame anybody for wanting to spend that much on a compact. I get it. However, just know that they're doing this to you on purpose. There is an intention behind what Disney is doing here with this. Next, we have the Kylie Cosmetics Leopard collection. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually really loving this palette. I think it's really cool. It's a perfect sort of fall themed palette. I thought the photo shoot was really ridiculous. She looked like a Carol Baskin-esque character. I always think the photo shoots are ridiculous, but I actually think the color story of this is really cool. I love that it low-key does the pop of blue, but at least in this context, the blue makes sense because it's sort of a muted blue with like a nice army green next to it and this really nice mustard shade. I love that whole little quad at the bottom with the mustard, the blue, the brown, and the black. I think that could have been just its own quad and been a really amazing fall color story. Same thing with the reds and the browns. I think you could make a lot of cool creations with this, and I think a lot of these colors would complement each other really nicely, which oftentimes with Kylie, my gripe is you could really only make the same look over and over and over again. A lot of the shades are very similar or very repetitive, but I think this color story is actually super solid, and the shimmers actually look really nice, especially that one Chrome Kitty. I think that one looks beautiful. Like, I would imagine that would be very nice. I'm not gonna get this just because for me, I bought the Artist Couture New Nudes as kind of my palette that I wanted for the fall, and I have been utilizing that a lot. The only shade that has that this doesn't is that blue shade and some of the like reds and stuff, but I have most of these neutrals anyway. It's kind of a basic palette to justify for me because I have so many neutrals, but if you're looking for a neutral nude type palette, I don't think this is bad by any means, and I actually don't mind the Kylie Cosmetics eyeshadow palette formula. It's not like the most amazing thing in the planet, but it's definitely decent, and I think this is kind of a cool little palette. And I feel like with Kylie Cosmetics and KKW, the bar is kind of so low because they kind of put out all of these releases that are just like, eh. So when they do something good or even just different, you're kind of like, oh, you perk up a little bit. It's like, oh, they're doing something cool. I know that a lot of my friends are very excited about this palette, so this might be an unpopular opinion, but Natasha Denona is coming out with the Triochrome palette. I gotta tell ya, I am just not interested. I know it has the duochromes in it, but I think maybe I'm just jaded because I hated the chromium liquid shadows so much from Natasha Denona. And also, even though the duochromes look really cool in the pan, in the palette, I don't think they look like that in real life. And also, if you cover up those 3 duochrome shades, the palette itself is a little bit pale and pasty looking. Whole neon yellow and purple side with all of that is very light and pale, and based on what I know about the Natasha Denona formula, I don't think these are going to show up super well. I think the only interesting part to me is that other side of the duochromes where it has the army green and the orange and the purple. I kind of wish that was being sold as like a 5-pan because I would actually really vibe with that. I think that pop of gold with the purples and army green is really cool, and I love that aspect of the color story. But honestly, I've just tried duochromes and multichromes from indie brands that are so good, and you could buy 3 of them for half the price. Like, you could buy 3 of the JD Glow Galaxy Shadows or their duochromes for literally half the price that this palette is gonna cost you. If this was a palette with like 6 of those duochromes and it had a ton of really cool transformative shades, like how Pat McGrath does her palettes, I would be all about that. Like, I would think that's actually pretty cool and also a really good value for the price. But with only getting 3 of the multichromes and the rest of the shadows being kind of like meh, I'm gonna steer clear of this one, but I also understand why people are excited because I know there are people that really love the Natasha Denona formula, and to get a palette that's so different from what she's really done before, this is definitely really unique and a fun color story, where normally her palettes kind of tend to range on the more neutral, usable side. This is definitely the most unique palette she's ever put out as far as color story goes, so I can understand why people are excited, and I do think it's a cool palette. I just don't think I would get the use out of it that would be necessary to spend that much money, and I also think you could get better duochromes, or at least similar duochromes, for half the price. That's just my opinion, but it is cool. Like, I'll give it to you. It's cool. There's a new brand by Mitchell called Made by Mitchell, and he has announced now what his first launch is going to be. I have to say, and this is purely my opinion, you can happily have another one, I think the exterior packaging, including his branding of the letter M, is absolutely so ugly. I think it's so ugly. Honestly, atrocious. I'm not trying to be mean. I genuinely think it's very ugly. I don't think it's well made. I don't think the M, the mirrors that he's doing, kind of doing the like Jeffree Star type mirrors, but with his logo, I think look weird. It looks like somebody just drew it in Microsoft and then popped it on a palette. It's not super well thought out in my opinion, and I also just think the exterior packaging of the two palettes, I don't like it. One is more of a camouflage type vibe. It almost looks like a paint by numbers thing, and the other one is like unicorn vibes and clouds with like rainbows. To be fair, the iridescent one with the clouds looks better than the paint by numbers one, but I'm not really in love with both. They both kind of give me cheaper vibes, which I don't think is what he's going for, since he is selling the palettes for 40 pounds each, which is pretty expensive. As far as the inside of the palettes go, first of all, I hate that he carried over the packaging on the outside to be the backlay of the eyeshadow palettes. I always hate when there's not a neutral backlay on eyeshadow palettes, unless it's something like glitter or something like that, or like a gradient, or, you know, something simple. When things are too chaotic behind eyeshadows, it instantly just makes the eyeshadows look worse in my opinion. As far as the actual color story of these palettes, I actually don't mind the green one, the more green with that pop of orange and the yellow. I actually think that's kind of cool. Again, very good for fall, a little bit more different, and I can see a cohesion to that one that I actually really enjoy. The other one, I hate. I just don't see any cohesion. It feels very random. It feels very, it kind of reminds me of the ABH palettes, the Norvina Pros, in the sense that it's very, very random. I don't see a specific color story with this one, and for someone like me who really relies on palette color stories to create looks, that's just my personal preference, this would be a very difficult palette for me to use and understand, and I would imagine that people just getting into makeup, this would be kind of a difficult palette to work with because it's hard to gauge how to use all of these colors together. I do think the lime green makeup brushes are kind of cool, but other than that, I mean, everything from this is kind of a little bit messy and chaotic. I'm not really getting a good vibe for what the brand is going to be or what the vibe of it is going to be, because for a first launch, this is very chaotic. There's not enough cohesion to this launch, in my opinion. Beauty Bakery is releasing their new sugar stick lip liners, and the only reason I wanted to talk about these is, again, I hate to be mean. I hate the packaging on these. The whole reason I enjoy lip liners so much is because they're easy to store, they're easy to contain, and they went the Jeffree Star route in making the lip liner caps like ridiculously bulky for no reason. They meant it to look like those sugar stick things that they had. So I understand that that's the vibe they were going for, and I appreciate that Beauty Bakery always does commit to their themes. Like, I can appreciate that at least with this they tried to be more creative, but honestly, I would have just appreciated the teal packaging and made something a lot more simple. There's something to be said sometimes about overdoing it with packaging when really all people want is simplicity. Making this so unnecessarily bulky and also kind of strange looking, because I don't think the sugar stick theme transferred. I think if they were going to make it a sugar stick theme, they should have made the entire lip liner that kind of textured sugar stick theme instead of making it just the tops, because it transfers out, because in the pictures especially, it just looks kind of weird. It just looks like they have kind of a snow cone on top of them or something very random. And also they're gonna be annoying to store. So I'm not gonna buy these, and I really only wanted to talk about the packaging. But I commend them for committing. I like Beauty Bakery, I really do. Okay, this I only screenshotted because I think it's shady. Does this not? Who do you think this is from? Let me put this picture up here. Who do you think this is by? What brand? What brand would you look at this and say, oh, that's this? Is it Smashbox? Am I crazy? Smashbox did this. This is a Lancôme collection, by the way, but this is literally the exact same thing, almost identical to the Smashbox iced crystal thing collection that they did a year or two ago. Is this not identical? Both in packaging and in exactly what it is. The packaging on this is so ridiculously similar that I'm definitely side-eyeing because this looks the same, especially the highlighter and the eyeshadow palette. They look identical to the Smashbox collection, and I thought that was so weird that they would do something so hyper similar to what Smashbox already did. So weird that they would do something so similar. Anyway, I don't have any opinion of if I think this is gonna be good or not. I think Lancôme is kind of overpriced, but I just thought that was nuts. Like, I was like, oh, Smashbox is doing the same thing? That's weird. And then I saw it was Lancôme and I was like, am I crazy? Tell me if you think I'm right or not. I really genuinely want to know if I'm just seeing things. Next, we have a product from Huda Beauty. Huda Beauty came out with foundation sticks. I'm not really sure one way or the other if I think this product is going to be good. I think Huda Beauty tends to make products for Instagram people, so I know for a fact it's probably going to be very full coverage. My one gripe with Huda Beauty about her face products is that they are all so ridiculously scented. It has made me not want to buy a lot of her face products. I actually had the foundation a few years ago and I never used it because even for someone like me who doesn't really care about scented products, it was just so ridiculously scented. It's the same thing with her spray. I remember one of her setting sprays had this really horrible, awful smell to it. And same thing with a lot of her other base products. They just have this really thick scent to them. And if this smells anything like that, I'm not interested and I wouldn't recommend. As far as performance wise, obviously it's hard to tell because there's not been any reviews yet. So I will be interested to see if there were any good or bad reviews, if people are really raving about it or not. She does tend to make very good full coverage products, but frankly, I'm not super interested in that type of makeup anymore. I haven't bought a full coverage foundation in a very long time because I'm kind of getting more into the medium to light coverage. I still think full coverage foundations have their place in the makeup community and have their place in my, drawers. Like, I still use full coverage stuff, but not often enough that I need to go out and buy new full coverage things. I'm much more interested in trying like skin tints, skin oils, BB creams, light coverage foundations than I would be in trying a more cakier full coverage foundation stick. Next, we have the new collection from Natasha Denona. I actually only really want to talk about the highlighter and the eyeshadow. I really, really, really want this highlighter like so bad. And that's because I have the Natasha Denona Super Glow and I love that highlighter. It's one of my favorites. I believe I have it in the shade 02 Medium Light. It is broken, so I'm very cautious with it. I've had to repress it like 3 times because I stupidly took it traveling with me and it smashed in my suitcase. So I know that I love this Super Glow formula, which I think is why I want this so badly. Really, the only reason I'm restraining myself is because $40 is just such a ridiculous price to pay for a highlighter. I'm not promising that I won't buy this because who knows what's gonna happen in the future, but I'm really trying to like weigh the pros and cons. The pros are that it's beautiful. I know I like the formula and I inevitably will use it quite a bit. The cons are I really don't need another highlighter. It's very expensive. That's it. Will my willpower outweigh? I don't know, but I think it's really, really freaking pretty and I was so excited when I saw this. The other thing, I also weirdly, I never ever am interested in her 5-pan palettes because I just always think they're kind of expensive, like $25 for all these little minis. This one might get me. I'm very, very interested in this little mini palette. I don't know why. I think because it is such a good fall palette, and I also think because I have been gravitating more towards smaller palettes palettes that are just a little bit easier to use, less options, more just like functionality. This seems like a very functional palette for me. The only thing that's missing is I wish that shimmer shade at the end, the brown shimmer, I wish it was just a matte brown. If that was a matte brown, I would use this every day and just throw a different shimmer on top depending on my mood, if I wanted the more coral or the more purpley silver. Other than that, I think this is beautiful. I think it's so pretty. I don't think I'm going to buy it because at the end of the day, it is still a very small palette. But the highlighter, I'm making zero promises. Okay, next. I actually got this in PR. So I don't know if you guys want a review. I did receive the 2 brand new Rare Beauty palettes, the eyeshadow palettes. The Rare Beauty put me on their PR list after my video, which I thought was really weird because I only liked like half the products, but I guess that's good for them. These are the 2 Rare Beauty palettes, and I don't know if you guys want a review on these. I don't know how much public interest there is in these 2 palettes. I saw them and I wasn't initially super intrigued by them, but especially this purple one, seeing it in person, I am a little bit more drawn to it than I initially thought. I haven't tried them out yet because I literally just got them. Same thing with this one. They are pretty in person, but they do, ooh, okay, well, that was a decent swatch for a tiny little baby swatch. Yeah, let me know if you guys want a review on these. I wasn't initially the most interested. I wasn't like, oh my god, I need those. I probably wouldn't have bought them if I didn't get them in PR, if I'm being completely honest. But I will say, I think the color stories are unique. I think that this definitely goes along with the brand aesthetic as a whole. It seems like these shadows are kind of meant to be one swipe, colorful eyeshadows, like a pop of color to a very simple, basic, glowy makeup routine, which is basically what the entirety of the first launch was. So this is definitely on brand for them, and I also think the packaging on it's really beautiful. The idea behind it is really beautiful. I'm just not sure if this is going to be like a necessity of a product. Does that make sense? I wish they had just done quads instead of making it a 6-pan, because I think if you're going to make a palette that's all shimmers, it should stop at a quad. I just don't think a 6-shade shimmer palette is necessarily the move. I'm just kind of neutral, I would say. Okay, finally, I just want to give a shout out. I had to talk about this on my channel. I am getting this, I think. The owner DM'd me and asked if I wanted it, and I absolutely said yes. So I know I'm getting one of these soon, and I will do a tutorial as soon as I get it, but I also know they're on back order, a lot of them. But I had to give a shout out. This is the It's Freaking Bats palette with Shroud Cosmetics and Beauty Bean. I've talked about Beauty Bean a couple times on this channel, but I love Betty Jean. I think she is the sweetest, cutest person. I'm so excited to see her channel absolutely blowing up. And I was also screaming for her on her launch day because it was so wildly successful. They sold out of the palettes in like 2 minutes. I'm pretty sure they're basically on a rolling pre-order right now, but I could be wrong. So I'll leave the information about this palette in particular down below if you guys want to check it out. I think the color story of this is perfect. I think she did a wonderful job creating something that hadn't already existed on the market. And also everything from packaging to color story to finishes of the shades just scream Betty Jean to me and her whole channel. And I'm just so proud of her. And I wanted to give her a shout out because I think this is such a cool freaking palette. I will say if you do order it, just remember it's a very small indie brand and they are very overwhelmed with the interest in this palette. So if you're gonna order it, make sure you're just patient with shipping. I wouldn't expect it anytime super soon. I've been waiting to get mine, and just like, you gotta be patient. When you're working with small indie brands who unexpectedly have these very large launches, it can sometimes be hard for them to catch up and do all of that. So just make sure you're kind to the people over at Shroud Cosmetics, because I know for a fact that they're doing their best. And yeah, I'm really excited for Betty Jean. I wanted to throw this in here. I think it's a cool palette, so go check it out if you want. I'll leave the info down below. I love you guys so much. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I am wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right, you can click on that link, you can register to vote, and you can be part of your democracy. I've partnered with Michelle Obama's When We All Vote campaign, and they have given me an official little link to share with you guys that I am so excited to continue to share and use. Please go check it out, go get informed, figure out who you're voting for, and then go vote for them. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!